I'm Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Berks County Board of Commissioners meeting for September the 17th. I want to note that if you have comments, there are two opportunities for comments on the agenda. The first is at the beginning of the meeting, and those are comments that are specific to an agenda item. I do see already that we have one, and we will share that comment. If you make a comment on an agenda item, you still are allowed to comment at the end of the meeting. In order to comment, please provide your first and last name, as well as the municipality where you reside. If you're from the media, we just simply need your name and the media that you are representing. As we always do, we're going to begin the program with a moment of silence followed by a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I should have also noted, I know we have people joining us not just on Microsoft Teams, but on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you have comments, same rules apply, but you can place those comments in the comments sections of the appropriate social media. With that, I want to recognize Stan Papadimitriou. He's joined by Yvonne Stroman. Stan leads COCA, the Council on Chemical Abuse, and we're kicking off virtually one of the more exciting commissioner meetings that we have each year because we're celebrating recovery. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stan. Stan.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to have some time in the agenda today. It's September, as you mentioned, it's recovery month. Typically, we would fill the commissioner's boardroom. You'd have to bring extra chairs in with folks in various stages of recovery coming in to express their gratitude to the county for all they do. And I'm going to turn this over to Yvonne in one moment, but I just wanted to publicly thank the commissioners on behalf of COCA and on behalf of the thousands of individuals and families who are able to access necessary drug and alcohol treatment and recovery services, due in large part to the commitment from the county to address this issue. It's been no secret for several years now, Berks County has been very much involved in this, and not just in terms of talking the talk, but they will not just resources that are allocated to this, but also each of the commissioners. I know each of you personally, I know each of your commitment to seeing people with an addiction disorder find help and stay in recovery. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I'm going to turn this over now to Yvonne Stroman, and she's going to lead us through this virtual recovery celebration. So with that, again, thank you and take care.
Good morning, and just want to echo the sentiments of our Executive Director, Stan Papadimitriou. The Council on Chemical Abuse could not do the work that we do without your support, and we know that. And so we thank you from the bottom of our hearts to all the efforts that you do. You know, COVID-19 really kind of put a halt to a number of things in our community, Commissioner, but we also know that you have been behind the scenes, making sure that people were informed, making sure that people were safe, and that we were all following signs. And so we really, really appreciate the efforts that are coming out of the County Commissioner's Office. So what we know is National Recovery Month is celebrated and has been for the last 30 years. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, known as SAMHSA, really wanted to make sure that we as the United States was aware and about the dangers of substance use disorder, but more importantly, to say that treatment is effective and that recovery is possible. I know that because I am one of those that are in long-term recovery. August 9th, 1990, my life changed for the better. There were some circumstances in my life that was going on with me, that there was an intercedence, there was an intervention that said we need to correct this trajectory, and I am so thankful for that. I would not be here standing before you had it not been for the works of effective treatment and, more importantly, supportive efforts in the recovery movement. What we know is that there are 23 million Americans that are in long-term. More importantly, there are 33,000 Berks Countyans that are living in long-term recovery. And I'm going to go on a limb and say that the majority of people are walking in long-term recovery because of the benefit from the county and its resources that are available to make sure that treatment is accessible and that people can go forth and live in long-term recovery. And as Stan said, normally, sir, we would be before you. It was always my mission to have an overabundance of folks in that county commissioner's boardroom to represent long-term recovery, to the point that sometimes we were wondering if the fire chief would come in and say, you know, you're kind of out of compliance here. But that was our goal, because we really wanted you to see the representation of what long-term recovery looks like. People have gone on to live well, live beyond well, and to be executive directors, to be lawyers, to be doctors, to be pastors, and to be just local leaders that are making effective change in the lives. So I just want to say that you, Commissioner Barnhart and Commissioner Rivera, have something to do with that. Thank you enough for all the efforts that you have put forward to making sure that those resources were available. As I mentioned, we're usually in numbers of dozens of folks, but because we wanted to acknowledge and respect the social distancing, I did bring a couple of folks here so that you know that while we are small in number, we are still mighty in recovery. And I'm going to ask Tom Skornavaki if he wouldn't mind coming and saying good morning and just kind of sharing some hope and experience. And then Robert Diaz, who's also one of the foot soldiers in the field, if he wouldn't mind speaking before you as well. So I want to thank you for your time. And thank you for all that you do, and God continue to bless you in your journey.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. Commissioners, thanks for all the good work you're doing. I think I want to start out by saying that a little over 20 years ago, you made an investment in me. I know you don't know it, you see many, many numbers, but 20 years ago, you subsidized my ability to treatment. At that time, I was certainly lost in every sense of the word, and without that, I believe I would still be somewhere on the street. Because of the gifts that you have given, the funding that you've provided, it has allowed me not only to move into recovery, long-term recovery, established on August 5th of the year 2001, but it now allows me to devote all of my efforts to helping other people to get into recovery or move forward in their recovery journeys. I work with Common Ground Recovery Community, something that I was part of the founding of that. We still work with our folks not only in Wyomissing, but every Sunday in downtown Reading at Trinity Lutheran Church, where we are still feeding folks who have those needs, folks and families, and providing them with masks and hand sanitizers and other personal items. But it all goes back to the people willing to make an investment, not just in me, but in thousands of others who have also received the benefits of what our commissioners do for us. So I just want to thank you, not just from me, but from the many, many thousands of people whose lives have been transformed because of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Tom. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to share and say thank you so much for the funding that you have been able to provide this community. 11 years and 8 months today, I've been clean and sober. My pathway was through a faith-based program called Teen Challenge. I started in Brooklyn and I made my way to Rarensburg, PA. While I was there, I decided to stay for 6 months and I volunteered. And while I volunteered, I was part of different community opportunity to go out into the community of Reading, Lebanon, Lancaster, and different other counties to preach the word, but now also to say a message of hope for those still sick and suffering from addiction. I was also had the opportunity to go to school. I stayed with Teen Challenge a little longer, got my bachelor's and then master's. And then by 2015, I decided I wanted to actually be in the community. And I started working for Berks Counseling Center. And while there, I was able to start my own small business, Walk It Out Recovery Services, LLC. And with that, I was able to go out into the community and particularly speak to the Spanish bilingual community that I felt were enfranchised. And there weren't so many clinicians that were bilingual that were able to help them. And while in BCC as a clinician, I was able to witness that. As I continued on working with them and in the ACT team, I started to really do the field, work the field more, and go to the homes community that was struggling with not only drug addiction, but mental health. So with those experiences, I had a conversation with COCA. The Council on Chemical Abuse was generous to offer an opportunity that I didn't think I would be able to get. And that opportunity was to get funding to be able to reach those who didn't have the insurance or the capability of going out and getting the help that they needed, especially being educated on the brain disease. You know, it took me a long time to accept the brain disease model, but after being educated, I learned that it was important for the families to understand why their loved ones were going through what they were going through and to teach them. So because of the funding, thank you so much. COCA has given us the opportunity to go out into the community. We have been able to teach the families what is recovery, what is addiction, codependency, and give them resources and Zoom. So thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Robert Diaz, President and CEO of Walk It Out Recovery Services. God bless you. Take care.
So that concludes our presentation for you this morning, sir. As I mentioned, usually in times past, there are dozens that want to come before you and share their experience, strength, and hope. But we are just a small representation, as you can see. We like to think of ourselves as a mighty small representation of the gift of recovery. And it goes without saying that had it not been for your zealousness in ensuring that those dollars were available, perhaps, I don't know, we'd probably be somewhere else, who's to say, but we just want to say thank you. We just wanted to honor, and just this month of National Recovery Month, to say, as we always do from the bottom of our hearts, we're just so appreciative of the great work that you're doing, and more importantly, your support in ensuring that people get access to treatment, and more importantly, our community tenfold by means of recovery. You're on mute, sir.
That is the word for 2020, or phrase. You are muted, or you're muted. Thank you very much, Yvonne, Stan, Tom, and was it Brian Diaz?
Robert Diaz.
Robert Diaz.
Yeah, Karen Shuey would like to have everyone's name for her report.
For sure. I will put them in I will type them in the message box.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Karen Shuey asked about making sure she has the proper names and spelling of everyone.
Yeah, and then we'll make sure she gets that. But thank you very much. We look forward to, hopefully this time next year, things being normal, having everyone up on the 13th floor, but we very much appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Continuing with the agenda, I'm going to turn the program over to Brian Gottschall. Brian is the director of the Berks County Department of Emergency Services. Brian also is the lead on the Berks County COVID-19 leadership team, and he is going to give an update on COVID-19 data for Berks County. Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. I just want to mention, as I think through how we're going to approach this each week, I've been struggling with the fact that I know we have many regular attendees who have heard the spiel week after week now, but we also have new folks who may be attending for the first time this week or watching this on a rebroadcast. And I'm going to try to kind of split the difference here in how much background we give, because I don't want to repeat that every week, but I also don't want all the slides to be out of context for anybody who's seeing them for the first time. So we'll try to make this better, and if people have suggestions, they should certainly send them in, and we'll try to modify the approach each week to get this more refined and in a way that helps the people the most. As always, we're going to start out by taking a look at the PA early warning dashboard. As we mentioned before, the state is unfortunately only publishing this on a weekly basis right now. This is coming out on a Friday, so by the time we get a chance to look at this the following Thursday, it's almost a week old data, but it's still good to keep track. And it's also important in that this is the data that the state is using in making recommendations to our schools, to our nursing homes, things like that. And what we see this week is a lot of good news, a lot of down arrows and one sideways arrow indicating no change in our positivity. Again, most importantly, we look at our specific hospitalizations, our patients on ventilators, our ED visits, the bottom three values, and we see that all of those have downward trends, which is great news, because that means that even though we still have people who are getting COVID, who are testing positive, the presence of the disease in our community in a serious manner that is causing people to have to seek the highest levels of medical care, it is on a downward trend. We don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure, or we don't know the answer to why. I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to why, but we can certainly say that it's great news. As we've done for the last couple weeks, we do want to show our daily testing data and our daily case count data in a non-statistically smooth fashion, in a spot fashion, because we had people ask for this and say that they were concerned that the smoothing was hiding some kind of statistic. Here it is on a day-to-day basis. We see it going up and down, and very difficult to understand what we're really seeing there. But when we smooth that data, it seems to make a lot more sense, and it shows how we had that big hump in cases, the bottom blue line back in the spring, and that diminished as we implemented the mitigation measures. And then as the mitigation measures were lifted, and people started conducting their lives in more of a normalized manner, we of course see our case counts come back up. We want to see them stay down. We want to see that line ideally go downward, but realistically at least remain flat. And we're kind of in an okay place with that, although we're seeing it start to lift up here, especially in the last week and a half to 2 weeks. We're seeing those numbers begin to rise beyond what was a fairly static horizontal line prior to that. So we need to keep doing our best. We need to live our lives in the way we need to live our lives to keep our community and our economy moving, but we also need to act prudently, not recklessly, in putting the mitigation measures in place. We also see that our daily testing numbers, as smoothed over 7 days, are well above the state line. And as we talked last week briefly, we now know that our real testing numbers, as the state wants to see when they establish that green line, are even higher than this, because their expectations do include repeat testing, which is not covered in these numbers. The bad news slide, if you will, is the numbers that we're tracking here in Berks County that are not being really focused on at the state level. Not to say that they're not tracking it. This is their data. It is available. It's just that they're not really emphasizing this, is our 7-day smooth % positivity for first test. So this is where we don't include all of the serial testing being done at nursing homes and other institutional locations where they're doing repetitive testing, producing lots of negatives. Think about it, John Q. Public in the community going and getting tested. This is really those numbers. And we are seeing a concerning and ongoing climb in those cases. That, of course, is contributing to the slide that we see here where I said that we're seeing this blue line start to lift up off of the horizontal. We want to be aware of this. We want to be concerned about our implementation of the mitigation measures and be sure that we're doing everything that we reasonably can to allow us to continue to conduct our life normally while still taking appropriate actions to protect the community. Again, the great news is, even though we're seeing this concerning increase in cases, as far as the outcomes of those cases, the hospitalizations and things like that, those numbers appear to be holding steady and or even going down. So we really want to walk that fine line between being an alarmist and ignoring the data. Commissioner, back to you.
Any questions from my colleagues for Brian Gottschall?
Not at this time. Thank you for the concise and very important information on a weekly basis, Brian.
Yep. Okay, we will continue with our agenda. Are there any additions or corrections for the September 10th Commissioner meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. I do want to note we had 2 executive sessions, one on September 10th dealing with personnel and union negotiations, and another one on September the 16th dealing with litigation, personnel, and real estate. Before we go into public comment, I want to just take a minute to note that today is Constitution Day. 233 years ago, on September 17th, 1787, a several-month effort of writing the Constitution culminated in those that had written it signing that Constitution. The Constitution is something worth not just reading, but reading about. About a year and a half ago, I had a book given to me by a good friend, Vic Hamill, called Plain Honest Men, and it's the most definitive book I've ever read about the writing of the Constitution. And it is an unvarnished document about the writing of the Constitution. It deals with the issue of why slavery wasn't addressed, but it also deals with the type of government that we have, and this is one thing that's often confused. The Constitution established a republic, not a democracy. One of the evidence in a great debate that occurred, I think it may have been around June of 1787, was the difference between a House and a Senate. A House that was elected by popular vote and was representative of the population, and a Senate who at that time were appointed by the individual legislatures, but that each state had 2 senators. So that back then, the smallest state, Delaware, had just as much input in the U.S. Senate as the largest state, which I believe was Virginia, had. And today, the state of Delaware has the same number of votes in the U.S. Senate that the state of California, our most populous state, has. But we should celebrate that. Today is Constitution Day. If I had time, I would love to be down in the Constitution Center in Philadelphia. If you've not had an opportunity to go there, it is a tremendous museum. It is nonpartisan and historically very, very accurate. A wonderful monument to the Constitution. Mary, do we have, and I know we have at least one comment on public agenda on items. Could you share that, please?
Yes, Jess Royer from Spring Township. This is a question on agenda item 324B under Commissioners. This is likely to be covered in the meeting, but to confirm, would the 30 ballots per precinct be an alternative option for a voter who applies for and receives their ballot by mail, but then tries to submit the ballot at their polling place instead of returning it to election services?
I can answer that question. I'm prepared to answer it, Mary. Christian, if you're okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the resolution is to purchase ballots, 30 per precinct times 202 precincts. So the actual resolution is to purchase 6,060 ballots, which if you read a little further is for ballots in the Election Services Department. These are not ballots going out to the precincts. These are ballots that will be available when people come into the Election Services office to fill them out. And just to clarify, if you take your mail-in ballot or absentee ballot to the polls because you didn't have a chance to complete it or you were concerned about the mail service, you must surrender that form, you must surrender that ballot and complete a form, and then you can vote on the machine. If you don't fill out the form, then you have to vote provisional. These are, again, systems of checks and balances to make sure people don't vote more than once. So again, if you walk into your precinct on election day and say, here's my ballot, you need to fill out a form if you choose to vote on the machine. If you turn in your ballot and don't fill out the form, then you have to vote provisional. Again, that will be verified in the Sure system to make sure only one person, one vote. So again, I think this resolution might be slightly misleading, but these are actually for ballots for people who walk into election services from the various precincts and say, I want to vote here at election services. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart. That is, I believe, the only comment we have on agenda items, Mary. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Very good. Thank you. Under our agenda, item 1, authorizing. Under that, Budget Department. Adopt a resolution authorizing 2020 budget transfers in the amount of $310,889 and 2020 appropriations in the amount of $3,250,000 per listing dated September the 14th of 2020. We have several items listed under Human Resources. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Cody Kaufman, Assistant County Solicitor in the Solicitor's Office. Item 2, authorize the appointment of Lee Bees to Senior Governmental Accountant in the Office of the Controller. Item 3, authorize the appointment of John DiDizio to Accounting Assistant, Office of the Controller. Item 4, authorize the appointment of Amy Werner to Judicial Coordinator in Court Administration. Item 5, authorize the appointment of Jessica Jones to Interim Director of the Area Agency on Aging. Item 6, authorize the appointment of Pamela Seaman to Interim Director of MHDD. Item 7, authorize the promotion of Nicole Blanding from Office Manager in the Treasurer's Office to Director of Tax Claim. Item 8, authorize the $250 uniform clothing allowance for lieutenants and sergeants at the jail system per the attached listing. There are several items listed under the commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution ratifying and confirming and approving execution of the short-term agreement for the operation and management of the Berks County Youth Recreational Facility fields between the County of Berks and NARJ Inc., Westchester, Pennsylvania, providing in lieu of rent and in exchange for the use of the fields, excluding fields number 1 and number 4, NARJ Inc. will mow and maintain the fields during the term of the agreement. Said agreement will terminate December 31st of 2020. Item B, adopt a resolution of the Board of Commissioners declaring an emergency to exist as a result of an increase in the cost of printing ballots from $1.58 to $1.68 per ballot, excuse me, to a required increase in paper size, and additionally amending the purchase order for David A. Smith, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to include the printing of 30 ballots per precinct for use by voters who apply for ballots in the Election Service Department. It is hereby further authorized to approve the wire transfer of the funds to cover postage on an as-needed basis. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing the Berks County Board of Commissioners to execute a letter of support to Christopher Falenke, PE, Mount Penn Borough Engineer, for the Mount Penn Borough Council's application to the PA Department of Community and Economic Development per the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program guidelines for assistance in the Glen Terrace Improvement Project. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute a sub-recipient grant agreement in the amount of $6.2 million with Community First Fund for the Berks County Small Business New Start Program and execution of the side letter agreement with Community First Fund to provide for the payment of the portion of the administrative fees in the amount of $100,000 not covered by the grant from the Commonwealth. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of contract agreements and amendments as furnished by the contract coordinator as set forth on the attached listing dated September the 15th of 2020. There are a total of 10 contracts, one with the Area Agency on Aging, one with Children and Youth Services, 3 with the Commissioners, 1 with the Department of Emergency Services, 1 with Juvenile Probation, 1 with the Library System, 1 with the Sheriff's Department, and 1 with Human Resources. And then finally, item 3, a motion to ratify and confirm payments as set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing dated September the 15th of 2020 and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented. Just one clarification on 326.2020D. That is the grant, the CARES Act grant from the federal government that came through the state. So that $6.2 million is money coming out of our CARES Act allocation. Thank you. I think Commissioner Rivera is on. Are you seconding this? It shows he's there, but I'm not hearing anything, so I will second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. With that, we will turn to our treasurer, Dennis Adams, for the treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, today we had an opening balance of $210,030,636.74. A balance to clear of $5,468,621.14, leaving us with a balance today of $204,512,009.60.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We'll turn now to our County Controller, Sandy Graffius, with the Controller's Report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we have total accounts payable of $7,868,228.91. We had a payroll this week, $4,496,167.53 for a grand total of $12,364,396.44.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Appreciate that. We will turn now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Chief Operations. Generally the same thing. Ron.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have nothing in relative to the county government in general, but in the interest of full disclosure, I'd just like to state that with the action taken this morning appointing Pamela Seaman to the interim director of MHDD, neither one of us, either by blood or by marriage, are related. Thank you.
That's a good point. Good to know.
Yep.
With that, we will turn to Commissioner Kevin Barnhart for your report.
Thank you, Commissioner Weinbach, and again, everyone who has joined us on this call this morning. I have a couple of things of importance to cover. Elections. Right now, we stand at 58,137 applications for mail-in or absentee ballots, up 6,000 from last week. Again, only permitted to accept ballots delivered to the services center by the voter. You can't harvest ballots and bring them in. You must deliver your own ballot. Mail-in voters were provided an alternate address in the primary to have their ballots mailed. This is not correct for the general election. Our office needs to be notified. A written letter with a signature needs to be sent out to our office, which I noted last week. If you have a home elsewhere outside of Berks County and voted in the primary by mail, you need to notify election services that you want the ballot delivered to your Berks County address. Again, there's a lot of things circling around the Green Party court challenge by the Democratic Party. We are still waiting for the conclusion of that court challenge before we're able to certify, well, the state certifies the ballot and we can actually send out the absentee and mail-in ballots. I think everyone has received the United States Postal Service large postcard. I reviewed this with election services. It says in the front, if you plan to vote by mail, plan ahead, which is a great idea. But the check boxes start today, give yourself enough time. Rules and dates vary by states, that's true. Request your mail-in ballot at least 15 days before election day. Actually, it says add postage to return envelope if needed. For the fall election, there will be postage paid envelopes, and they should recommend you mail the ballot at least 7 days. I've said this for months. As soon as you get that ballot, fill it out, send it in. Let's not have any questions as to the delays wherever they may be. So that covers that. Co-County Wellness, I'd like to give this report every week so people know that contact tracing is taking place in our community. To date, there's 1,336 contacts in the database. 302 have refused contact tracing, that's 23%. But when you boil down the numbers because of the delay in the testing results going to DOH and then back to Co-County Wellness, the actual refusal rate is 13%, which is very commendable. And the total contacts show an increase of 136 new contacts in the past 5 days, or about an 11% increase. And I'm sure we are not surprised by the cases that we're hearing in larger exposed areas like Kutztown University. Now we're hearing that there is a case at Alvernia. So that as large groups congregate, we're going to see more and more of this, as well as some of our area school districts. So keep in mind, all the rules still apply. Wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance, avoid more than 25 people indoors and 250 outdoors. CARES Act money and its allocation to the community most in need is moving mightily along with our internal team, Ron Seaman, Pam Schupp, and others, Jessica Blauser, myself. We have Justin Luce really helping to move this forward with the technology we're going to need to put the additional applications out. I'm sure Commissioner Rivera is going to refer to the Business New Start program, which is out on the street. We hope to have the balance of these programs out by the end of September. Right now, we're working on the application process, and not this Tuesday's budget ops meetings, but the following budget ops meeting, we're going to be presenting to the Board of Commissioners, hopefully for their approval, the community partners we're going to be engaging to go through the applications and to rank them and have that money going out to the community as best as possible. We're still talking about having ranges on the maximum amount that these agencies and not-for-profits can apply for. We did that with the Business New Start, so we think that might parallel with the not-for-profits with the municipalities for the healthcare providers. So we're still working on that internally with our team as well as with Whit O'Brien. So things are moving along well, and we hope to have most of these other programs out by the end of September to our community. South Central Transit Authority met last evening virtually, and we're going to be back to normal schedule for barter routes October 19th. I know there's a lot of people that have been waiting. We've been running a Saturday schedule for various reasons. One in particular is the lack of bus drivers due to health-related illnesses and just issues of getting people to certify a Class B with passenger endorsement to drive bus. We are still down July and August. Our fiscal year starts July 1. Our ridership for this year, the last 2 months, is down 40%. So another good thing, we are looking at a modest fare increase of 10 cents. We haven't increased fare since 2011. We're also planning on eliminating the zones. So we're making it not only at Red Rose and Lancaster, but BARDA in Reading and Berks County, making it easier for people to have only pay once when they get on the bus and not have to pay for transfers and zones and that sort of thing. We're really trying to streamline the process, all in an attempt to get more people to ride mass transit. And last but not least, I've said this religiously, and I'm going to say it again, the census is still open and available for people who did not fill out their census forms. There is still time. The deadline is September 30th. Again, like everything else, there's a court case, I think today in the Third Circuit, to extend it out to October 31st. There was an original extension out to October 31st. Federal government pulled it back to September 30th. And now there's a challenge by numerous organizations to push it back out to October 31st to get an accurate count as possible. The Complete Count Committee here in Berks County really endorses moving this out to October 31st. We still have a lot of areas primarily in the city of Reading that are grossly undercounted. And as Michael Toledo said on our call the other day, he was preaching to the community on his virtual call that at this point, the city is half the population it actually is with the census figures coming in. So we really need to continue through the next several weeks to continue to push this as well as possible. Thank you, and I look forward to everyone's questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Just to be clear, when I was seconding the motion, but I guess no one was hearing me, I did unmute, but for some reason you weren't hearing me. But so I did second the motion to.
Not a problem.
All right, so a few things I want to go over. As Commissioner Barnhart had mentioned before, the Small Business New Start Grant opened on September the 10th and is ending next week on September the 23rd at 11:59 at night. So please go in. We do have a good amount of businesses that have already applied. The good thing about it is that it is not a first come, first served grant. So if you have not applied at this point, please make sure you go in and apply. You do need to make sure that you apply properly, complete the application completely, and provide all the information that is requested there for your grant application to be considered. Again, it was $6 million, and the grant amounts are between $10,000 and $50,000 based on gross annual revenue. And these are for businesses with under 50 employees and up to $3 million in annual gross revenue. So please, if you're not a business owner, but you have a favorite barbershop, a favorite mechanic, a favorite hairdresser, a favorite corner store, a favorite store overall, please let them know, ask them if they need assistance related to COVID, and if so, that they should apply for this grant. We need to get the word out there. We want to make sure that the needs of our businesses are being met through this program so that our small businesses can not only continue to stay open, but so that they can grow and thrive throughout this difficult time that we're all going through. So please help me get the word out on the New Start Grant. For more information, you can go to rebuildberks.com. Again, that's rebuildberks.com, and there will be a link there to the application, or you can go directly to the application at communityfirstfund.org. Again, that is communityfirstfund.org. So let's get the word out there. This is to help our small businesses who do so much for economy. These business owners are your neighbors. Their kids may go to school with your kids, or you may go to church with them. You may be involved in other ways with them. So we want to make sure that we are supporting these businesses that are so important to our economy. On another note, I also want to let you know that the PHFA Rental Relief Assistance Program ends the 30th of this month, so there's about 2 weeks left. If you do know of anyone, this program is available for tenants and for landlords as well. The money does not go to the tenant, the money goes directly to the landlord for the payment of back rent. And it's, as of now, it's closing on September 30th. There is a bill in the legislature which is looking to extend it to October 31st. It's not anything sure, so if you do know of anyone in this situation, make sure they get the application in by September 30th. There will be about a week after that to get any other needed documentation or information that was not entered by September 30th. But as of now, that is the deadline. There is other rental assistance programs and money out there, but for this particular one, it ends on September the 30th. Also want to remind everyone, as we spoke about in our last board meeting, this is Suicide Prevention Month, so please let's get the word out there. Let's talk about it. Let's share information on it. For information relating specifically to veterans, you can visit www.BeThereForVeterans.com. Again, www.BeThereForVeterans.com. For guidelines and how to safely communicate about suicide, you can visit www.reportingonsuicide.org. Again, www.reportingonsuicide.org. As I said the last time, I think suicide is something that has either affected all of us directly, a family member or a friend, or it has affected a family member or a friend of someone that we know. So please, let's take this seriously, especially in this time of the year. What we're going through COVID, it's extremely important that we're aware, that we're keeping our eye out. And if we do see something that's a little bit off, that we do have that discussion with the person. And one more thing, Hispanic Heritage Month did start on Tuesday. It runs through October 15. The Hispanic Center will be doing different virtual events. Depending on how things move along, there may be something small with social distancing, all precautions in mind, done in person, but as of now, they will be having different virtual events tonight. There will be one, a Facebook Live on the census, and it will be both in English and in Spanish. So if you have the opportunity, join us tonight at 6 o'clock. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. I just want to highlight one item this morning, and let me see if I can pull this up. The recent decision by the Pennsylvania Western District Federal Court regarding Governor Wolf and the Commonwealth's rules and regulations around COVID-19 was a very interesting ruling. And I wanted to highlight that we actually, as a county, looked at the possibility of getting involved in this case back in the spring. Jeff Bukowski, an attorney with Smith Bukowski, along with attorney Jim Smith, I had some discussions with them. Then they also spoke to the commissioners. Jeff Bukowski sent out a letter earlier this week in response to the decision. If you want to see the full letter, I have that up on my social media along with the actual decision. And there's also a declaratory judgment or a declaratory statement from the judge that is included. But I want to read, and I've asked Jeff if I could share this. I did not arbitrarily put it out there. And Jeff said it was absolutely fine. He's also shared it on some of his LinkedIn. I want to read the last two paragraphs from his letter. He says, in reaching its conclusion on the business shutdown orders, the court compared the impact on smaller specialty businesses with big box stores whose product offerings were broader, and found that the same products the small mom and pop businesses were precluded from selling could be purchased as arbitrarily determined life-sustaining big box retailers and drugstores. That's important because that is an issue all three commissioners raised that we were very unhappy with the order that shut down a lot of businesses in our community that were selling the same things as the big box stores, and the big box stores were wide open. We said at the time that the big box stores were going to be making a lot of money while our mom and pop stores were and continue to be in serious trouble, and the data shows that we were right. The last paragraph says, finally, the court held that the county plaintiffs did not have standing to pursue the constitutional claims asserted in the complaint because counties do not possess constitutional rights. Therefore, the order dismissed those plaintiffs from the case. This is consistent with our prior discussion, and Berks County was prudent in not seeking to join the litigation or pursuing its own separate legal claims based on the shutdown orders. What he is referencing is the declaratory order that was issued with the ruling. And if you look at that, and again, I have this listed, it notes that the plaintiffs that he ruled in favor of, and this is Judge Stickman, were individuals and businesses, and they're listed, the businesses and the individuals are listed in that document. I think it's important to understand, people might ask, well, how can a business have constitutional rights? And that has to do with the laws of incorporation. And then the question would be, if a business can have constitutional rights, why can't a county? Well, interestingly enough, a county is a creation of the state. In this case, Berks County, and the county code is a creation of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we are not an independent entity, if you will. Finally, I want to look at some of the key statements in the ruling that I believe are extremely powerful. Judge Stickman says, after reviewing the record in this case, including numerous exhibits and witness testimony, the court believes the defendants undertook their actions in a well-intentioned effort to protect Pennsylvanians from the virus. However, good intentions toward a laudable end are not alone enough to uphold government action against the constitutional challenge. Indeed, the greatest threats to our system of constitutional liberties may arise when the ends are laudable and the intent is good, especially in a time of emergency. In an emergency, even a vigilant public may let down its guard over its constitutional liberties, only to find that liberties once relinquished are hard to recoup, and that restrictions, while expedient in the face of an emergency situation, may persist long after immediate danger has passed. There is an additional piece that is very important, and it challenges the methodology that the Commonwealth used to put these policies in place. The policy team was tasked with creating, and I realize I'm not sharing the right screen, so let me step back here and go to the PDF here. The policy team was tasked with creating the distinctions between life-sustaining and non-life-sustaining businesses, as well as preparing responses for the public on frequently asked questions. Its members consisted solely of employees from the governor's Policy and Planning Office, none of whom possess a medical background or are experts in infection control. The governor never attended meetings of the various teams, but he participated in regular calls and updates with members of his administration, and he was briefed and consulted on key matters. Ultimately, without ever conducting a formal vote, the teams, by consensus, when there was a favorite approach everyone agreed on, put together the scope of an order and submitted it to the governor through his chief of staff for approval. And then I want to take us all the way to the end of the document. And I can't get to my bar, so I'm going to have to go through in this fashion. Technology is great when it works. Here's the conclusion. The court closes this opinion as it began by recognizing that defendants' actions at issue here were undertaken with the good intention of addressing a public health emergency. But even in an emergency, the authority of government is not unfettered. The liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms. In place when times are good but able to be cast aside in times of trouble. There is no question that this country has faced and will face emergencies of every sort, but the solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as the foundation of the American experiment. The Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to the open-ended emergency mitigation measures. Rather, the Constitution sets certain lines that may not be crossed even in an emergency. Actions taken by defendants cross those lines. It is the duty of the court to declare those actions unconstitutional. Thus, consistent with the reasons set forth above, the court will enter judgment in favor of the plaintiffs. When I read through the decision, I thought it was important to take the time to share some of the content with you. Again, you can get that if you Google it, that is readily available. You can look at it, read it for yourself, and I've also posted it up on my social media and also on my website. That is all I have. Do we have any comments from our row officers?
You, Commissioner Leinbach?
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to give a quick anecdote since I'm a Constitutional Convention junkie, and today I consider this as a national holiday, really, Constitution Day. I first want to thank the commissioners for their continuing leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. I know this row officer greatly appreciates all of your hard work and dedication. Everybody knows the story of Benjamin Franklin. Most people do. It's been used as a political hot potato in recent months. The story of Franklin as he came out of the Constitutional Convention. Mr. Franklin, what have you wrought? And his famous statement, a republic if you can keep it. But there's another story about Ben Franklin that a lot of people don't know about at the Constitutional Convention. I just wanted to share that anecdote since I am obsessed with that, and I've read, and the book that you referenced, Commissioner, is one of the best books on the Constitutional Convention. There are several others too, but Benjamin Franklin was 81 years old, 81 years old at the Constitutional Convention. He was the most famous man probably in the world at that time. He was severely infirmed. He had to be carried to the Constitutional Convention every day in what was called a sedan chair because he couldn't walk. He had very hard time walking. At the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention, before he made his famous "A Republic if you can keep it" statement, several of the delegates, as they were finishing signing the document, that is now forever preserved at the National Archives. And I encourage everybody, if you can get to the National Archives, to see our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights in person, the real documents. He was asked any closing thoughts before they left and they went out to greet the people and go on with their lives. And he made a reference to what's called the Rising Sun Chair, which is the chair that George Washington, as president of the Constitutional Convention, presided over the convention in. And they said, Dr. Franklin, as they referenced him, What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that chair? Because if you see the chair, and it is the actual chair, you can go there and see it. It is the chair that Washington presided over the convention. And I'm just paraphrasing, but he said, I've often looked at that sun behind the president during this session. And I've often wondered, is it a setting sun or is it a rising sun? And he says, now I am happy to declare today that it is a rising sun. And it was, he knew, he could see that what they had done, and it was very, very difficult. And as you know from the book, it was many compromises had to be made. There were so many times that almost failed, and who knows where we would be today. But when he made that statement, he was foreshadowing the great things to come in our republic, and the challenges, I believe, as well. But he was a champion for the republic. He even wrote to his friends in Europe. He saw this as a foundational document that world governments could use. I mean, he was that intelligent and that genius. So I just wanted to share that quick anecdote that many people might not be familiar with on this Constitution Day, a great day for all Americans to celebrate and rejoice in. Thank you for indulging me, commissioners.
Thank you very much, JD. I appreciate that. And what better day to talk about the Constitution than on Constitution Day? Any other comments from our row officers? Hearing none, we will go now to public comment, and Mary Buer, my executive assistant, will be reading the public comment. Mary?
Christopher Ellis, Reading. District Attorney John Adams must release the footage to Reading Housing Authority cameras, body camera footage, and BARTA footage in the police shooting of a Black trans woman at 8th and Franklin Street. The public has a right to know what happened. Statements to the media are not sufficient, as one outlet has seen fit to misgender the victim, and several simply printed word for word the statement from the DA's office without any further reprobing. I do applaud I do applaud the Reading Eagle for diving deeper and asking for more. There is no reason to withhold this footage. Lancaster released footage from a shooting within hours. Melvia Ahmed, why missing? Good morning. While I understand the convenience of having county commissioner meetings during the day, is it possible to have an evening meeting at least once a month to provide access to county proceedings to citizens who work during the day? Adrian Jadick, why missing? Dear commissioners, we at Berks Stands Up. We are talking to thousands of Berks County voters through our canvassing efforts. In this process, we have seen a growing concern among the voters in our county regarding the delay between the release of mail vote results versus the in-person vote results. With some notable exceptions, in the past, this delay had little impact on the final result of the vote due to the reduced number of absentee and provisional ballots. However, due to the COVID pandemic, this election cycle will clearly be different as thousands of voters have registered to vote by mail. The main concern relates to a built-in disadvantage of the mail vote, which as of now is scheduled to be released at a later day or time than the in-person vote. What is your plan to avoid such scenario? We at Berks Stands Up are urging you to ensure that all results are released at once. We support Governor Wolf's proposal to open the mail ballots earlier. However, since the Republican Party has opposed this common sense solution, the only logical alternative is to delay the transmission of the in-person counts until all mail votes are tallied, all or nothing. Amy Levengood, Amity Township. Good morning, commissioners. As you know, Monday, September 14th was supposed to be the day PA voters could begin sending in their mail-in ballots. but due to the pending lawsuit regarding the Green Party, the ballots haven't even been printed yet. Given this now compressed timeline, coupled with delays in the U.S. Postal Service, isn't it even more imperative that we have more than one drop box to serve the needs of the voters in the county? If the deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is the Tuesday before the election, and by some accounts, letters have been reported to take 10 days to go from Reading to Muhlenberg, are you concerned that Berks Countyans won't have the full capacity to exercise their right to vote? Wouldn't even one or two more additional boxes in outlying areas be a reasonable accommodation? Is there anything being done to prepare for possible bottlenecks at the drop box at the courthouse? Not to mention that many people driving into the city to drop off their ballots will have to pay for parking. That sounds an awful lot like a poll tax to me. Thank you. Crystal Kowalski, why I'm missing. Good morning, commissioners. I have questions regarding proposed ordinances 03-2020 and 04-2020. Are the duties spelled out in these ordinances new duties being assigned to the district attorney's office and the sheriff's deputies? If so, who currently performs these duties? After doing some initial reading about Social Security Section 4D and finding this paragraph excerpted from information from the Administration for Children and Families under the header Relationship to Public Assistance, which states, recipients of public assistance under certain federal programs must be referred to the 4D Agency for Paternity Establishment and Child Support Enforcement Services. Cases referred from these public assistance programs are 4D cases. After reading the above paragraph, I would like to ask, will the increased enforcement by the DA's and sheriff's offices be primarily directed towards families who receive public assistance? Could you please explain the purpose and scope of these ordinances so that we can all understand and give feedback as to what we believe our elected officials' roles should be in such situations before you vote on the ordinances next week? My concern is the same as it is in many criminal justice situations in this county and this country, which is there is unequally harsh enforcement of the law in communities of color and communities that receive public assistance. This is an issue that would be important to discuss in a town hall. Can you please tell me the status of proposed town hall meetings? Thank you, Crystal Kowalski. Why I'm missing. Excuse me. Louise Grimm, why I'm missing. Good morning, commissioners. I am resubmitting a comment I made last week that for some reason was not read. Not sure why, and not blaming anyone. I am afraid my comments a couple of weeks ago were taken out of context and were never meant to demean the workers at the Board of Election who are doing their best under very difficult circumstances. And I apologize if I created that perception. Your answers to my questions were very helpful. Thank you. Please understand that many of us are very concerned about the efforts to malign and disrupt the mail-in ballot process. From a president suggesting people vote twice, to post office officials disrupting the workings of the post office in the middle of a pandemic and just before an election, to our president, along with foreign powers, spreading false rumors about the security of our election in an effort to place doubts upon the legitimacy of these elections. These actions constitute an attack on our democracy and the democratic process. It just seemed to me that there are still unanswered questions relating to the upcoming election less than 6 weeks from now, such as, when will the ballots be sent out? Can I take my spouse's ballot into a county ballot box, or must each person deposit his or her ballot. The delays in delivery at the post office continue, so getting the ballots out as soon as possible is crucial to ensure every vote is counted. Since election matters are, as you stated, the responsibility of the county, we are counting on you to make sure every vote is counted and the process runs smoothly, keeping delays and ascertaining the winner of this election as minimal as possible to mitigate any unrest or violence that might ensue in our community. David Kurzwig from Kumu Township. To clarify for the viewers some information on the ballot challenge involving the Green Party. On August 3rd, the deadline date for third parties, the PA Green Party submitted nomination petitions and necessary paperwork to be placed on the ballot for various offices for the November 3rd election. All that was approved by the PA Department of State for placement on the ballot. On August 10th, a challenge was filed. The court resolved the case on September 9th. All Green Party candidates but one were returned to the ballot. On September 10th, an appeal to the PA Supreme Court was filed by representatives of the PA Democratic Party. Briefs on that case were filed between September 11 and September 14. A decision from the court is pending. Several county board of elections have filed an amicus curiae to the court requesting prompt handling of the case. Why didn't the Berks County Board of Elections join in that filing? Jeff Royer, Spring Township. Thank you for the clarification on the agenda item and describing how unreturned mail-in ballots will be handled. As far as the overall vote totals, will the vote totals from Election Day be released simultaneously with or independent of mail-in and absentee and provisional ballots? On the topic of living in a republic and having representation, I think we can all agree that having that voice and presence in Washington, D.C. is an important part of being an American citizen. Unfortunately, there are American citizens that are not fully represented in our federal government, including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., and that goes without mention too often. Thank you. This is from Mike Toledo, Executive Director of Hispanic Center, Daniel Torres from Reading. The Centro Hispano will be hosting a virtual town hall tonight at 7 p.m. on the census on our Centro Hispano Facebook page. Let's all be counted. We all matter. Please help me to share. And then gives a website or a Facebook post. I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce the last name of Barbara Heckman Olway, resides in Spring Township, business owner with my husband of Pagoda Apparel in Reading. Thank you for supporting small local businesses. Please try your best to buy all your needed products from Berks County businesses. Linda Knapp, Shillington. Once the funding ends for rental assistance being via the CARES Act, is there any sort of programs being put in place by the county to support those who may be evicted as a result? And then Becky Ellis.
That was just for the record. That was Laura, not Linda. Laura and
Oh, Laura, I apologize. Thank you.
Okay.
Becky Ellis, Reading. Good morning. What is being done to combat voter intimidation at the polls on Election Day? In a November 7, 2016 article of The Telegraph entitled Guns at the Polls Under Watchful Election Eyes in Pennsylvania, it is stated that having a gun at the polls in Pennsylvania could become unlawful if coupled with aggressive behavior or actions that intimidate voters. according to the Pennsylvania Department of State, which oversees the state's elections. The department recently handed down guidance to precinct supervisors. Intimidating actions listed include blocking entry to polling places, ostentatious showing of weapons, and handing out false or misleading election information. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of ostentatious is attracting or seeking to attract attention, admiration, or envy, often by gaudiness or obviousness. In the past 4 years, nothing has been done to change gun laws at the polling places, and according to Pennsylvania statutes, Title 21 P.S. Elections and Electoral Districts 3047, no police officer is to be within 100 feet of polling places. This is concerning because even if someone flashes their gun in a polling place, as it stands, there is no possibility of repercussions for anyone doing this. Excuse me. This is of great personal concern to me. Excuse me. Since an ex-coworker had proudly stated that her husband openly carried his handgun in the polling place with the sole purpose, quoting her, to intimidate the liberals on election day in 2016. In addition, since proper mask wearing is not enforced in Berks County and is now politicized, what is to keep voters from feeling intimidated at their polling place by someone refusing to wear a mask or refusing to wear a mask so that it covers both their mouth and nose? I am concerned that voters will be told that if they do not feel safe, that they should leave, which would prevent a voter from fulfilling their right to vote. There is no denying that masks keep everyone safer when worn properly than when masks are not worn or worn incorrectly. If ballot boxes for mail-in ballots are not going to be available for voters throughout Berks County on election day, a mask mandate at the polls is needed to greatly diminish the risk of the spread of COVID-19. As per the CDC website entitled Considerations for Election Polling Locations and Voters, and then she gives the website. The more an individual interacts with others, and the longer that interaction, the higher the risk of COVID-19 spread. Elections with only in-person voting on a single day are higher risk for COVID-19 spread because there will be larger crowds and longer wait times. Lower risk election polling settings include those with a wide variety of voting options, longer voting periods, more days and or more hours, any other feasible options for reducing the number of voters who congregate indoors in polling locations at the same time. Thank you. And I believe that is the last of the public comments.
Yes, that is. We will close public comment at this point in time. And I'm going to jump in and address some of these issues and then allow my colleagues to do the same. On the comment on being able to open mail-in ballots early, I'm not sure where the individual got their information, but the legislation that was recently passed overwhelmingly in the House and overwhelmingly in the Senate would have allowed counties to begin to open those ballots the Saturday before the election. So there seems to be agreement on that issue on both sides of the aisle. I just wanted to clarify that. It was very helpful, the individual that shared the details on the steps in the current ballot legal fight I mean, currently, the Democratic Party is suing to try to keep the Green Party candidates off. Commissioner Barnhart, go ahead.
We're getting numerous reports that it's been successful, that the Green Party is off the ballot.
Completely off, or just that one candidate?
The last one I was hanging on was the presidential candidate. That was I think the issue, and now they've been removed.
Okay, so that is the status. Another person raised the issue, why didn't the county file an amicus brief? The county is very active with County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, and CCAP has made their position known very strongly, that they supported a prompt answer to that issue. And then as far as refusing to wear a mask in a polling place, that's a state rule. The state had made it very clear we cannot require a person to wear a mask at a poll. A number of weeks ago, we did address that issue. We had, I think Debbie Oliveri was on. As far as law enforcement at the polls, no law enforcement may be within 100 feet or 100 yards of the polling place. There is an exception, and that is if they are called to respond to an incident, they obviously are able to respond to an incident. There also is one other aspect to this, and that is constables historically have been used at various polling places as security. And I know where I vote in Tilden Township, I think every time I voted, our constable has been present there throughout the day. So it's not that there is no one there able to do anything. Constables are able to be at the polls, but law enforcement cannot just simply be there, but they are able to respond. And our poll workers, I just talked to Debbie Oliveri, our election director, earlier in the week. Our poll workers are trained on when to call for help. If there is, if they have people shouting and are noisy or something in line, they call the elections department. But if somebody punches someone else, they're calling 911, and 911 will respond to that with law enforcement. I'll leave the rest of comments and questions to my colleagues. Commissioner Barnhart or Rivera?
I'll just pick up some of the other comments about the election. So we've received unofficial information that the Green Party is now off the ballot in Pennsylvania. Election Services has to receive an official certification from the state. They have to test about 6,000 sample ballots to see if they scan correctly. And of course, now that the ballots have to be rearranged if the Green Party is no longer on the ballot. So there's some time lapse here till this all gets mechanically corrected. Worst case scenarios, the ballots will be going out by the end of September. We're hoping that it will be sooner, but it's a matter of getting all this. Again, we're talking about 202 precincts and rearranging those ballots that originally we thought would have the Green Party remaining on that. Another quick item, I want to thank Barbara Heckman-Holloway from Pagoda Apparel. We have been successful in having a lease arrangement with you and your husband at the Barta Transportation Center. Best of luck with that. And my sweatshirt, my Reading Pagoda sweatshirt's wearing out, so I'll have to stop by and get a new sweatshirt for the winter. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of Reading and Berks County. We love to have business owners like you reporting in on us and let us know how things are going for you. Last but not least, I attended the Epler's one-room schoolhouse meeting, virtual. It wasn't virtual, it was in the parking lot at the Epler School, which is at the Red Bridge Heritage Center. 24 people were there, all masked. And it's really amazing to see how far they've come so far since the school was placed there in early July. They already have someone who's coming out to look at the stonework, to replace the stonework, the broken windows, and also some electrical components. One of the members had a picture from the 1920s, which indicated the back of the school had 2 windows. There were no doors in the back of the school. The only door to the school was in the front. So there were actually 2 windows back there. And they have committees called Building, History, and Fundraising. And they have members involved in both history, building, and fundraising. Last but not least, they're having a pulled pork dinner fundraiser Thursday, October 15th. It's only $8. It's pork, baked beans, applesauce, roll and butter, and barbecue sauce. Pickup is between 3 and 6 at Burn Farm, located 1160 Old Burnville Road. Just want to let you know I have tickets available here. They're only $8 a piece. Please help the Friends of Epper School as they embark on this amazing journey to preserve this school the way it looked when it was originally built back in the 1860s. So thank you. I have tickets available here if anyone's interested in purchasing pulled pork meals at only $8 a piece. Thank you.
Count me in for 2, Commissioner Barnhart.
Thank you.
I'll get you the money.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Commissioner Barnhart, count me in for some as well. It'll either be 3 or 4. I'll let you know later on today. Just want to touch on 2 things. Barbara from Pagoda Apparel, you may know this already, but part of the Rebuild Berks program is a campaign in buying local. So if you are not, if you have not logged on to the website and entered your information there so people can go and find you there, please do so. Again, you may have already done that and you may be aware of the program, but we do feel it is important that people buy locally, that instead of going online and ordering from out of the state or even out of the country, that we spend our money on local businesses here. So again, rebuildberks.com for more information there. There's also training for businesses to help them meet the needs and the buying of where the consumers are today, because COVID has changed how people buy and how people consume. So please go to rebuildberks.com for more information. The other comment I want to make is on Laura in reference to the rental assistance. The PHFA money will end now September 30th, may be extended to October 31st, but there is other money available out there. All the information will go through the Berks Coalition to End Homelessness. They are basically the clearinghouse for all the information and all the money that's available for at 610-372-7222. Again, that's 610-372-7222. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera and Commissioner Barnhart. I did get a note from our public relations officer, Stephanie Weaver, and I forgot about this. Pagoda Apparel is one of the featured businesses in the Rebuild Berks Shop Local campaign, and that makes sense that they would want to continue to push that. So we want to thank Pagoda Apparel for participating in that very important message. We help our community a lot more when we keep as much of our dollars that we earn and spend them locally on locally owned businesses. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
The meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much. Good.